This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on election scenario for the first phase of upcoming assembly elections. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Neelabh Srivastav, journalist.
The electoral campaign and political crescendo in the 4 states and 1 union territory are going to polls very soon now. Now these 4 states are Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and the union territory of Puducherry. The campaign is peaking. It is in full steam now. Different political leaders, party leaders, star campaigners spread across various states campaigning for their respective candidates and parties. As per the Election Commission, an estimated over 18 crore electors are eligible to cast their votes in these 4 states and 1 union territory. There are about 2.7 lakh polling stations spread across in these 5 regions. And also the total number of seats in these 4 states and 1 UT are 824. So as we all know, Kerala, Puducherry and Tamil Nadu will have a one-phase election. They will go to polls on April 6th, while 2 states, Assam and West Bengal, have multi-phased elections. So in West Bengal, there are 8 phases. The first phase is very soon coming up now, next week. It is March 27, where 30 seats are going to polls. And in Assam, this is a 3-phase election. 47 assembly constituencies or assembly seats will go to polls on March 27. Mr. Iyer, the political debate and speeches are in these poll-bound states and the union territory of Puducherry are revolving around the multiple old issues and contemporary issues, including the subject of providing good governance to citizens, eradicating corruption. While the Bharatiya Janata Party says it can ensure a double engine growth because it is at the center, the other parties like TMC and left in Kerala say that they can continue the development streak, what they have been doing since the past. And other parties like the Congress and left parties and the alliance in West Bengal, they say that this is a time for change from the incumbent government. What is the kind of atmosphere that you see in all these 5 states? Different political ramifications, different kind of sets in these political challenges in these states. But what is if you can draw us the entire picture as to what the campaign is now?
In Assam, it is the BJP which is seeking a second term. In Bengal, it is Mamata Banerjee who is seeking a third term. And in Tamil Nadu, you are seeing ADMK, he is seeking a third term. And in Kerala, where the governments have never been repeated, CPM is looking for a second term. And of course, in Puducherry is a new situation where the Congress government had to collapse because many of the members voted against the leadership of Narayan Swamy, and many of those legislators have joined the BJP. So there is an alliance between the BJP and a regional Congress party called the NR Congress. Now, in all these states, what we are seeing is issues of governance is definitely being talked about. And along with that, the Prime Minister's campaign has started both in Assam and Bengal. And we are already seeing that his rallies are drawing a lot of traction. And there it is a question of whether Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress has delivered in the last 10 years. And the BJP, which is fairly new to the political scene of Bengal, is coming with the plank of Asli Parivartan, the real change. And that is the campaign theme of the Prime Minister. And we have seen his election campaign even today drawing good crowds, very good reception of the people. So somewhere along you can see there is an undercurrent which does indicate that probably there is a urging for change. But at the same time, Mamata is also campaigning very aggressively, and she has called herself the daughter of Bengal, and she's evoking all those local sentiments so as to ward off the biggest challenge that her party is facing in its existence so far. And in Assam, it is actually between the governance record of Chief Minister Sarabananda Sonowal of the BJP and versus a coalition of opposition parties. For the first time in Assam, you are seeing Congress as aligned with All India United Minority Democratic Front, which is led by Maulana Badruddin Ajmal, who is also known as the Perfume King, and other small parties which include left. And there is a small third front too there, which is consisting of 2 local parties. And in Assam, actually, the issue is what is the track record that Sarabananda Sonowal government has given in the last 5 years versus other issues have come. And definitely one of the issues which is being debated hotly in Assam is the issue of foreigners influx, because that state has seen influx of foreigners for a long time, and the issue of the National Register of Citizens that has been there. And along with that, the Citizen Amendment Act is also a contentious topic in Assam, where the local people, are very worried about, influx of foreigners making use of the CAA there. So therefore, in different states, there are issues. Of course, down south, if you come, in Tamil Nadu, actually, it is election which is going to see absence of stalwarts, because this is the first election when there will be no DMK giant like Kalaignar Karunanidhi or the AIADMK Supremo Jayalalitha, because these two leaders are no longer in the political scene. And so you have virtually some kind of, I would say, a leadership contest or a presidential style contest between the DMK led by M.K. Stalin, who is the son of Karunanidhi, and Edappadi Palaniswamy, who is the chief minister for the last 4 years, who has managed to help the AIDMK regain some ground after patching up with his deputy O. Paneerselvam. And so there is an ADMK-led alliance of which BJP is a part. BJP is contesting 20 seats. On the other hand, DMK has retained the same alliance which gave it a good success in the Lok Sabha elections. Out of 39 Lok Sabha seats from Tamil Nadu, the DMK-led alliance managed to win 38. Of course, in left-ruled Kerala, the CPM Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan is also facing a lot of challenge, because in the sense, there are a lot of scandals that came up recently, gold smuggling case which involved some of his close aides, including his secretary in the Chief Minister's office, that has provided fodder to the opposition. Of course, there is some kind of a triangular fight there. You have the Congress-led UDF versus, of course, the CPM-led Marxist and BJP. BJP, has grown steadily in Kerala, and in the Lok Sabha elections, they managed to get 15.5% vote, the vote which they retained during the local elections also.
The first phase is there on March 27th, the first two states of Assam and West Bengal. In West Bengal specifically, the BJP, which is enthused by the fact that it has got a good number of Lok Sabha seats in the past and it has digged in its heel to get to the power in the state by unseating Mamata Banerjee, the current chief minister. And the kind of allegations are against the family rule, the word called hypo, when the prime minister and other senior leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party call Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee, saying that he is running the party. A lot of leaders from TMC defecting to the BJP and even other parties, also from Congress and left parties who have come to the BJP fold. We've also seen TMC and Abhishek Banerjee, the MP, also accusing the central government investigative agencies against them. So the entire theme and that one word that we every time hear on television channels, Khela Hobe, while the TMC has given the slogan, the BJP has also said that yes, definitely the Khela Hobe would happen, but this is more on development. So how do you see the entire this campaign panning out in West Bengal?
In Bengal, what has happened is for the last 10 years, it has been unchallenged supremacy of Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress. And politics has permeated every section and every field in Bengal. And that state has been notorious for political violence, particularly by the ruling party and opposition workers. That is one problem which we saw it has been there during the Marxist rule also. In fact, Mamata Banerjee's rise as a leader of Bengal was largely because she came out as a voice against the political violence by the Marxist workers in Bengal. But subsequently what we saw is that in the first 5 years between 2006 and 2011, Mamata, she started with saying that she wanted parivartan, in Bangla meaning change, and not revenge. But what has happened is, over a period of time, the very same political tactics which was adopted by the Marxist leaders in Bengal between 1977 and 2011, they ruled for more than 34 years. So the same tactics was adopted by Trinamool Congress leaders in kind of unleashing political violence for domination in the rural Bengal. So that resulted in a situation where the Mamata's tactics of gradually liquidating all opposition. First it was with the Congress, many of the Congress leaders left their party and joined Trinamool, and then she also kept putting a pressure on the Marxist workers. Now, finally, there was a kind of a vacuum that was developing, in the sense there was no opposition left because of her hard tactics on the ground. So finally, it was the BJP which was started emerging in Bengal, which was seen as the alternative to Mamata's domination. So that rise of the BJP, because of certain policies also followed by Mamata, particularly what were described as vote bank politics, or special measures to ensure that, like for instance, Muslim clerics were given some monthly allowances which was not available to other religious leaders. Similarly, in the divide and policy, we saw that systematically she ensured that the traditional vote base of the Trinamool Congress was kept intact. But at the time, you saw their resentment was building up, particularly, whether it was issue of influx of foreigners, a problem we saw in Assam, the same issue coming up in Bengal, and also the general quality of governance has been much debated in Bengal, because we didn't see any major infrastructure projects or ability to generate jobs in Bengal. and also the rural Bengal, which is heavily dependent on agriculture, did not see any initiatives that could, improve the productivity or ensure better deal for farmers. In that situation, BJP has taken up the issue of, revitalizing Bengal. That is the running theme of this election campaign. And Mamata, of course, says we have done a lot for the people, and she is describing BJP as outsiders. And we have also seen, even issues like anybody say Jai Shri Ram, something which Mamata openly frowned upon, has also become a political issue in Bengal. Here the issue is whether Mamata's track record of the last 10 years, did it bring about a change, a qualitative change in governance, or it was actually a rule in which we saw lots of complaints of Tolabaji or what is called extortion, a systematic system of, cut money where even social welfare schemes, we are told that the political leaders were, taking some percentage or a cut in the money given to the poor. Similarly, there have been complaints from smaller distressed people also that there is a huge racket of extortion, which is a point that the Prime Minister Modi has been saying in the campaign. And of course, the biggest, challenge to Mamata has been her efforts to actually prop up her nephew or Baipo, as you mentioned, that is Abhishek Banerjee, who is a Lok Sabha MP. That has become a source of resentment within the Trinamool Congress, in fact, which led to almost exit of more than 20-25 former and current legislators. And many of them have joined the BJP. And of course, the tallest leader from Trinamool to come out and revolt against Mamata leadership is Suvendu Adhikari. And we have seen that Suvendu Adhikari is contesting the Nandigram, which actually is very symbolic because that is the place from where Mamata had launched a 2011 campaign, or rather in the run-up to that year's election, which actually brought Mamata to power. But today we find Mamata and the Suvendu Adhikari both are fighting on the same constituency. So all these issues are made the battle as a kind of a touch and go kind of an affair where nobody is sure, which way the wave is blowing and whether the Mamata will manage to overcome this challenge from the BJP, or the BJP, which has steadily increased its numbers because its spectacular performance in the Lok Sabha, where it won 18 of the 42 Lok Sabha seats, because in Bengal their strength was no more than 3 seats or 4 seats. Definitely, there is a space for the growth of a party other than Trinamool, and which BJP has been successfully been working on that in Bengal.
Moving towards the southern state, Tamil Nadu, you mentioned, Mr. Iyer, was that the two tall leaders, the stalwarts, Mr. K. Karunanidhi of the DMK and J. Jayalalitha, the former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, very tall leaders of the AIADMK. After their untimely deaths, the elections in Tamil Nadu are going to happen, and it has been largely a two-party affair in this state. Your expert views, Mr. Iyer, on this?
If you just take the results of the Lok Sabha elections of 2019, one would have assumed that the DMK-led front, which swept almost all but one seat of Tamil Nadu, there is virtually a rout of the ADMK. This would be a general assumption. But the last almost 2 years, what we are seeing is the ADMK has managed to regain some ground. That is the interesting aspect of this election. Nobody is saying that ADMK has been completely routed. Rather, what they are saying is under EPS, or Edappadi Palaniswamy, as the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister is known, he has managed to consolidate whatever gains that could be possible. Otherwise, people always concede that since the last Lok Sabha elections, the DMK has had a big edge over ADMK. But today, people are not able to say that the Stalin-led DMK will completely sweep the election. Rather, we are saying that this election has become tough for both sides. ADMK, of course, this is the third term they are seeking. There are a number of anti-incumbency factors which are working against ADMK. But at the same time, two developments. Shashikala, who was a very close aide of Jayalalitha, she was released from prison after serving her 4-year term. After that, people thought she will come and challenge Edappadi's leadership. But she decided that she will not do anything which will help the DMK. Rather, she decided nothing doing. Our common enemy is the DMK and we'll have to fight them off. The other development which I think we must take note is superstar Rajinikanth, who had earlier announced plans to enter the electoral fray with his own party, decided not to. That also changed the dynamics of Tamil Nadu elections.
We are looking forward to seeing the campaign heading up from here, multiple phases as we mentioned earlier, and the results are supposed to come on May 2nd. Thank you very much for sharing your points, Mr. Iyer.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on election scenario for the first phase of upcoming assembly elections. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Neelabh Srivastav, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.